Welcome to Learn to Excel series brought to you by ChemEnggLife. If you are an engineer, you may have realized that 90% of your job is working with dataset. And that is what engineering is all about as well. Trying to understand the data and then trying to make sense of it so that you can make informed decisions. As an engineer, you will have to work with huge amounts of dataset. Therefore, the very first thing that you need to know is to be able to extract key points or critical information from the dataset using a click of a button. Luckily for us, Excel has an inbuilt function that allows us to do that. So in this video, we will learn how to use the VLOOKUP function. The VLOOKUP function, which is the vertical lookup function, it allows you to be able to extract the value of a variable from a huge dataset. Now, in order for us to understand how it works, we will start off with a very simple example. Now, as you can see in column A, we have the list of different fruits, and in column B, we have the respective price for that fruit. For the apple, they cost $8, oranges, they cost $12, strawberry costs $8, and so on and so on. What we want to be able to do is, now of course, it will be very difficult for you or very time consuming for you to search through each row to be able to find the price of the fruit that you're looking for. Therefore, what we want Excel to do is that every time I search for apple, it should give me the price of the apple, which is 8. When I search for melon, it should give me the price of the melon, which is 28. And that is something we can do using the VLOOKUP function. Now, when you're working with Excel, a function requires, just like in mathematical language, a function needs input to be able to give you the output. So in Excel, every time you need to run the VLOOKUP function, you need to give Excel the inputs, which Excel can then use to give you the actual value as return. The first thing that you need to give Excel is the lookup value. Now, the lookup value is the name of the variable that you're searching for, which in our case is melon. So you can just select it. Then you need to define the data set in which you are searching for that variable. In our case, this is the data set that we are searching in. Now, the VLOOKUP function can only go from left to right. Hence, therefore, you need to define to Excel, we need to tell Excel that it needs to search for the variable in this list, in this column, and the value that we need is stored in the second column from that list. So this is the column 1, and this is for us the column 2. Therefore, we need to write a 2 there. And I'll repeat it again. So what we want Excel to do is that we want Excel to search for melon in this list, right? And then we also tell Excel that the value that we need from the dataset is stored in the second column from the list that you're searching for. That means that this is the second column, and we want Excel to give us the price of that variable that we're searching. And then at the end, we write false. If you write true, then Excel will only give you an approximate match. So that means that, let's say if there are any ones that have similar names, then Excel will only match it partially. Therefore, you need to select false, which makes sure that you get the exact match when you are working with the VLOOKUP function. And that's it. So these are the inputs that you need to define. Then you press enter, and the formula is running. And now let's check if it actually works. So let's search for apple. Okay, it gives us 8. Is that true? Yes, it is. It costs $8. Let's search for oranges. It costs $12. So that's perfect. Let's search for melon again. That's $28, and that is perfect. Let's search for kiwi, and that will give us 12. So that is perfect as well. So that means that the VLOOKUP function actually works. Great. And now this is a very, like I said it before, this is a very simple example just to get the ball rolling and to understand how the formula actually works. But there are a few limitations with the VLOOKUP function that you need to be aware of. The first one being that the VLOOKUP function only runs from left to right. That means that you can get the corresponding value as long as it is on the right side of the data of the searching list, of the searched list. Like in this case, it was in column B, so we could search for apple and we can get 8, but we cannot search for 8 and then get apple using the VLOOKUP function unless you move this column behind this column. So that's the first thing. The second thing that you need to remember is that whenever you're using the VLOOKUP function, what Excel does is that it starts from the very top and it goes down till the very end. So that means that if I search for apple, it will give me 8. And if you have duplicates in the list, which in our case we have 2 apples, we have an apple here and we have an apple here. Now the first apple, it cost $8. The second apple, it cost $17. Excel will only tell you the value of the first variable with the very first hit that it can find in the list. And it will not give you the value of the second one unless you delete the first one. Then you see Excel will automatically give you the next value. And if you write that apple again, then Excel will once again give you that value because it always select the first hit that it will get. A possible way to work around it is to change the variables so that you have unique names. So instead of an apple, we could have written a golden apple. And for this one, we could have written, let's say, American apple. And that means that I would have to search for a golden apple every time to get the price. And I would have to search for an American apple to get the second price. But if you feel that you have many duplicates in your list, then the VLOOKUP function may not be the best formula that you can use in order to extract the information. Because then you will never be able to get the values for the values that may come after the first hit. So these are the two considerations that you need to keep in mind whenever you're using the VLOOKUP function. Great, so now when the basics are in place, now we can move into using the VLOOKUP function to a chemical engineering problem. Now, if you're working with a chemical engineering dataset, you can very easily use VLOOKUP function and it can make your life a lot easier. One example of a dataset could be something that you see in front of you right now. You could have the list of your equipment, and for each equipment, you're given your energy output. So what you can do is that you can, for example, search for your ID of your equipment, and you would like to know the energy output of that equipment. So in our case, we'll once again write VLOOKUP. We are searching for H1. Now you need to define the table for which you want Excel to search for that specific value. In this case now, it will have to be column B and column C. And then you scroll all the way down because Excel will look for this value by default in the very first column of the dataset. Then we need to define the column, which again still is number 2 because this is column 1 and this is your column 2. And then we want a false value, false, which means an exact match. And then you do it right there. So now we do a C3, and then let's say we do an FT2. You see, then you will automatically get the energy of your equipment right in front by Excel. So you don't necessarily have to sit down and find or search the value yourself. Now you may feel that this is a bit confusing because you're only searching for the ID, but in fact, you would also very much like to know what sort of an equipment that is. But as I said earlier, you cannot use the VLOOKUP function on a data that is on the left of your defining column. That means that we could only search for the energy using VLOOKUP, but we cannot go back. So instead, what you can do is a very simple solution is to move around on the columns that we have done in this case. So you move the ID to column A, and then you move the energy to column C. And now what we'll do is we will search for, we will actually maybe delete. So search for the ID, and then we will write the equipment type, and we will search for the energy. So this will be our, we will be searching for the ID right here. So let's say we write H1. Now you need to realize that you have 3 columns and you need 2 different pieces of information from Excel. So we will once again use the VLOOKUP function. We want Excel to search for this number. We want the Excel to search for this number in this column, in this list. Therefore, we will start the data set from this. We want the equipment type, but we also want the energy in the second row, right? So we will select the entire data set. Now the column, the equipment type is in the second column from the list that we're searching for. Therefore, we will write a number 2 and then a false. That means that we need the exact match there. And then we will search for VLOOKUP once again because we also want the energy. But once again, we are searching for the ID, a semicolon. We will select the entire data set. Oops, sorry. We will do it again. Column. But now this is column 1. We want Excel to give us the energy which is placed in the third column. So 1, 2, and 3. So that means that we have to write a number 3 and we write false so that we get the exact match, and there you go. So now let's say I search for P1. Then I know that it is a pump and the energy requirement is 90 gigajoules. I search for FT1. It will give me a flash tank and the energy output is 60. So essentially you can actually use the VLOOKUP on as many columns that you have. You can have a column for energy input, you can have energy output, then you can have a cost, then you can have anything. You can have as many columns as you like, and then you can convert that into a small table like this where you can extract the critical information using the VLOOKUP function. The only thing you need to remember is to be able to define the column number. So but as long as you have that in place, you can easily use the VLOOKUP function on any value that you want. Because remember that it is you that have to tell Excel to search for this value in this column and then give you the output for that specific value in column number 3 or in column number 2 or in column number 50. And Excel will give you that value. And the VLOOKUP function will only go from left till the right. So you cannot go from heater to H1, but you can only go from H1 to the heater and then to 36. And that was all for this video, and I really hope that you learned something new today which you can use in your everyday life and in your everyday career. And also do remember to visit www.ChemEnggLife.com where you can sign up for online Excel courses which can help you further excel in your career and in data analysis. And if you have not done so already, then do remember to subscribe to ChemEnggLife channel for more videos on chemical engineering and other series. Thank you and have a great day.